The waitress and the veteran. Look, Freddy Krueger came to work today, Davidson shouted, slamming his hand on the table. Hey, monster, bring more coffee over here, but be careful not to spill it with those burnt hands. The cruel laughter echoed through Ray's diner. All eyes turned to Kesha, who held the coffee pot with perfectly steady hands, despite the scars that spread from her fingers and disappeared under her white uniform sleeve. Kesha Johnson was 34 years old and had faced much worse than the insults of Davidson and his crew of executives who showed up every Tuesday. What they didn't know was that every cruel word only fed something inside her, a strength they could never understand. I bet it was in a fire in the ghetto, whispered Brett, Davidson's accountant, loud enough for her to hear. Or maybe she was trying to cook crack and blew it up. Davidson laughed louder. Or maybe her boyfriend did it to her. You know how domestic violence is in that community. Kesha approached with measured steps, her posture straight. She poured the coffee with surgical precision, every movement calculated and controlled. Anything else, gentlemen? She asked in a voice so calm that Davidson frowned. Yeah, an explanation. Davidson leaned forward. Tell us how you got that. Was it an accident? Or did someone teach you a lesson? For a split second, something flashed across Kesha's eyes. Not fear or shame, but the look of someone who had stared death in the face and decided it would have to wait. Work, she replied simply. What kind of work leaves someone like that? Brett insisted. Nightclub security, prostitute. Careful, Kesha interrupted, turning slowly. Some stories are more dangerous to tell than you can imagine. What none of them realized was that Kesha memorized every face, every name, every detail about their lives. Her military mind cataloged everything for a purpose they couldn't dream of. Across the restaurant, James Wright watched the scene with growing discomfort. Something about Kesha's posture, the way she maintained composure under fire, awakened a distant memory. There was something familiar about that serenity under pressure, that unnatural calm that only existed in people who had been in places where death was real. Davidson wasn't satisfied. Work. What kind of work, sweetheart? Because from what I see, you serve coffee and clean tables. Not exactly high-risk professions. Maybe she worked at a barbecue joint, Brett laughed. You know, jobs for people like her. People like me, Kesha asked, her voice maintaining the same calm tone. You know, people who work with their hands. Manual labor. Nothing that requires too much brain power. When Kesha leaned forward to pick up a napkin, her sleeve rode up, revealing not only scars but the faded edge of a tattoo. James's heart raced. Those marks were unmistakable to someone who had served. Manual labor, Kesha muttered. That's an interesting way to describe carrying wounded soldiers under enemy fire. What did you say? Davidson blinked. Nothing. Do you want the bill or are you going to stand here all day making comments about my appearance? Listen here, you little prick. Davidson rose from his chair. You're going to show us the respect we deserve. We're paying customers and you're just a... What? Kesha interrupted, making direct eye contact for the first time. Something in her gaze made him step back. James watched tensely. The way Kesha stood, hands open at her sides, she wasn't just defending her dignity. She was assessing threats and calculating responses. An employee, Davidson finished. And employees should know their place. My place. Kesha repeated slowly. You're right, I should know my place. The problem is, you have no idea what my real place is. I bet you didn't even finish high school, Davidson continued. I bet those scars are from some street fight. People like you always get into trouble. Street fighting. Kesha smiled without humor. It's funny how you always assume the worst. It never occurs to you that maybe these marks come from something noble. Noble. Look at you. You work in a roadside restaurant. What could possibly be noble about your life? Kesha walked slowly toward their table and leaned in slightly. The difference between you and me, you judge people by what you see on the surface. I judge them by what I know they're capable of doing when no one's looking. Davidson felt a chill. Are you threatening me? Of course not. Just pointing out that sometimes people completely underestimate who they're dealing with. And when they realize their mistake, it's usually too late. James could no longer remain silent. He stood and approached the counter. Excuse me, James said quietly as Kesha passed. Can I talk to you for a moment? Kesha sized him up quickly. Sure, but quickly. I still have tables. That tattoo on your arm. 1st Infantry Division. Big red one. Kesha's body tensed. Did you serve? Marines. 2 tours in Afghanistan. And you've clearly seen action too. James glanced at Davidson. These idiots have no idea who they're messing with, do they? Not a clue. Kesha allowed a small smile. Combat medic. Combat trauma specialist. 3 tours in Iraq. And you're right about them not knowing. But it's not time for them to find out yet. Meanwhile, Davidson took out his phone and started recording. Everyone, I want you to see this. This is Monster who serves us coffee here. Just look at that burned face. Kesha turned, and instead of embarrassment, she smiled, a cold smile that made James shiver. Keep recording. I'm sure you'll want to save this for posterity. See, she even likes the attention, Davidson laughed. I bet she has an OnlyFans account for people with a deformity fetish. You're right about me being used to being filmed, Kesha said, walking over. I've been filmed receiving military medals. Medals for saving lives under enemy fire. Medals for bravery in combat. Davidson hesitated but then laughed. Sure, and I'm General Washington. Keep recording. By the way, what's your full name? So when this video goes viral, people will know who's behind this masterpiece. Davidson Mitchell from Mitchell & Associates. Successful company, successful guy filming a failed employee. And what do you guys do? Business consulting. We help companies get rid of problem employees. Employees who don't fit the company image. Kesha processed this with military efficiency. Tony, she called to the manager. Can you witness that Mr. Davidson Mitchell is recording this voluntarily, using my name and making specific comments about my physical appearance? You know what? Kesha continued, you'd be surprised what an invisible person can hear during business conversations, especially when those conversations happen weekly at the same table for months. Davidson realized he might have said too much during all those Tuesdays. Details about questionable contracts, dubious practices, clients he'd helped fire for discriminatory reasons. All said in front of a mere waitress he considered too irrelevant to pose any threat. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always, Kesha said. See you next Tuesday. Or maybe not. Davidson's phone rang. It was Michael Stevens, his biggest client. Davidson, you need to explain some very disturbing information about your company. Stevens' voice was tense. About the methods you use to fire employees using questionable criteria. Kesha approached. Mr. Stevens, isn't that right? 3 months ago, you explained in detail how you helped Stevens fire black employees using restructuring as an excuse. You said, the trick is to create retroactive performance documentation. They can never prove discrimination. That's a lie. Davidson shouted. Lie. Kesha smiled. Tony, can you bring my phone? The one with the recording app I've been using for the last 6 months. The silence was deafening. In Texas, only one party needs to consent to recordings, Kesha said calmly. Every Tuesday for 6 months, I recorded every admission of discriminatory practice you made. Tony brought the phone. Kesha played a recording and Davidson's voice echoed through the restaurant. Davidson reached for the phone, but James stepped between them. I wouldn't do that. 6 months of confessions, Kesha continued. Client names, specific tactics, amounts paid, all perfectly audible. Davidson's phone rang again. His wife. Davidson, what the hell is going on? My sister just sent me a video on Instagram where you're humiliating a war veteran. Oh yeah, Kesha said. I posted that video you recorded on your social media with details about my military background you never bothered to find out. Davidson opened Instagram with trembling hands. The video had thousands of views. The description read, Mitchell & Associates CEO humiliates decorated war veteran. Sergeant Kesha Johnson served 3 tours in Iraq and saved dozens of American lives. There's more. Kesha showed him a folder. Over the past 3 months, I've investigated every aspect of Mitchell & Associates. The recordings have been sent to the Department of Labor, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and 3 offices specializing in discrimination. The viral video will ensure everyone knows who you really are. The phone exploded with calls. Each ring was another client canceling contracts. Why? Davidson asked, his voice broken. Why didn't you say who you were from the start? Kesha stared at him with unshakable dignity. Because men like you need to learn that respect shouldn't depend on uniforms. It should be automatic, basic, human. James stepped forward and extended his hand. Sergeant Johnson, it's been an honor to witness this. As Davidson and Brett left in complete despair, Kesha turned to the other customers. What about you? 6 months watching this happen. How many other people have you seen humiliated and chosen to do nothing? 6 months later, Kesha Johnson was no longer just a waitress. Her story had spread nationally, turning her into a respected spokesperson for veterans' rights and victims of workplace discrimination. The diner had become a pilgrimage site for veterans from across the country. Davidson Mitchell was living a nightmare. Mitchell and Associates had closed after losing all major clients. The viral video had been viewed by over 10 million people. His wife had filed for divorce. He called me last week, Kesha told James, apologizing, begging me to take the recordings off the internet. And what did you say? That some lessons need to be permanent to be effective. The federal investigation had revealed a discrimination scheme far larger than anyone imagined. 12 companies were now facing lawsuits for discriminatory practices. James had moved to the city permanently, opening a consulting business for veterans. He and Kesha had developed a strong partnership, helping other former military members navigate civilian life. The ironic thing, James reflected, is that Davidson tried to use discrimination to feel superior, but ended up revealing his own moral inferiority to the whole world. Kesha's story inspired legislative changes in 3 states, including new protections for veterans against workplace discrimination. She testified before congressional committees, her calm but powerful words echoing through the halls of power. The best revenge, Kesha said during a speech at a veterans convention, is not to destroy those who hurt you. It's to build something greater than they could ever imagine, and to do it with such class that they're forced to respect the very thing they tried to destroy. Her scars, once a source of shame and ridicule, had become symbols of courage and sacrifice that inspired thousands. The lesson was clear. Davidson tried to destroy Kesha, but he ended up destroying himself. True revenge isn't about repaying harm. It's about achieving a level of success your enemies could never imagine, and doing so with a dignity that forces them to confront their own moral mediocrity. Real revenge is quiet, patient, and almost invisible. It doesn't announce itself with anger or cruelty, because those reactions still keep you trapped in the space your enemies created for you. Instead, it begins the moment you refuse to let bitterness shape your future. It's the decision to redirect pain into purpose, humiliation into discipline, and doubt into an unshakable sense of self-worth. Those who hurt others often expect collapse. They wait for tears, rage, or public failure, proof that their actions mattered. When that reaction never comes, something unsettling happens. Your silence denies them closure. Your composure becomes confusing. While they replay the past, you are busy building a future that no longer includes them. Success, in this sense, is not merely material. It's waking up without resentment weighing on your chest. It's walking into rooms with confidence earned through effort, not ego. It's being able to speak your truth without needing to shout, because your life already says everything for you. This kind of achievement cannot be faked or stolen, and it terrifies those who relied on your weakness to feel powerful. Dignity is the sharpest edge of this victory. It shows in how you treat people who can offer you nothing. It shows in restraint, in choosing not to humiliate even when you finally have the upper hand. That restraint forces an uncomfortable mirror onto those who once believed cruelty was strength. They are left to confront the fact that you rose without becoming what they were. Over time, the distance between you and them grows vast. Not because you chased revenge, but because you chased excellence. While they remain defined by old grudges and small victories, you are defined by growth. Your achievements are not a performance for them, yet they feel it anyway. Every milestone you reach quietly answers the doubts they planted, without ever needing to mention their names. In the end, the most powerful retribution is freedom. Freedom from their opinions, their judgments, and the moment they tried to reduce you. You don't win by proving them wrong in words, you win by living so fully, so authentically, that their role in your story becomes insignificant. And when they finally realize this, it's not anger they feel, but the slow, undeniable awareness that you surpassed them without ever looking back.